Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Waterloo Schools Board of Education Board of Directors meeting and ask that you join me this evening in a moment of silence. Thank you, and will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we'll do our mission statement. I'm going to ask Stacy Mills to read this, and you're holding up the right side of the of the room well tonight, so, or my right side.
The Waterloo Schools community commits to a comprehensive system of education and support to assure that each and every student will graduate prepared for college, career, and citizenship, as evidenced by continuing education, pursuing a career path, and contributing to a community.
Thanks, Stacy. Welcome aboard. You get to do that every now and again, and keeps all of us on our toes. So, all right, the first item on our agenda this evening is an approval of the Master Builders of Iowa grant, and the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the acceptance of the Master Builders of Iowa grant in the amount of $23,000 for the Sustainable Construction Program at the Waterloo Career Center.
So moved.
Thank you, Jesse. And a second?
Second.
Awesome. And then for discussion, I will ask, I see that Amy Meehy is here tonight from the Career Center, and I will ask, she's one of our coordinators, and I will ask that she come forward and give us a little more information.
Yeah, so asking for approval.
Hey, Amy, will you turn your mic on? Push that little button and then it goes green.
Is it on now?
There, now you're on.
Maybe you can pull it to you, the microphone, there you go. Yep.
We're asking for approval of a $23,000 grant from the Master Builders of Iowa, or MBI, for a Sustainable Construction Program. We collaborated with Cardinal Construction, so special thanks to our the president there, Katie Susung, as well as project manager Rachel Brewer. The grant is to build small sheds for multiple low-income houses in the city of Waterloo, used to store many things such as mowers, equipment, toys. Bikes specifically are stolen most frequently. We're working with Carol Gustafson, of the director of Block by Block, which is the organization that supports the improvement of these things in the city, to identify which houses will receive these. We've had many conversations with Mayor Hart and the director of planning and zoning for this city to get the permit fee waived. I know that there is a meeting planned this week on that. Cardinal will work with our instructor, Wayne Lidke, on the design components and the building plans. The goal is to construct this in the spring and then move them to the houses by May or June, sometime this summer. In-kind gift from the district, $22,000. That's a prorated expense for the instructor's salary for his time in the class building the sheds. So this might be part of the class. This is already built into the class already. If the movement of the sheds goes into the summer, we would pay the instructors per diem salary to complete the project from Perkins money. Really, the big picture of all this is a win-win-win. Students are learning valuable skills within the classroom, working with one of our premier businesses, Cardinal Construction. And ultimately, the most important is that we're giving back to our community. I really feel that this is an opportunity for kids to make an impact and kind of show the community the things that they're doing, as well as benefiting our city. I have details on each shed if you have questions at all, like about what that looks like, but that's pretty much what I got.
Amy, are they gonna build the sheds at the Career Center and move them out, or?
Correct.
And approximately how many sheds do you think will?
About
You'll-
20.
20. Wow. Okay.
Do you think maybe you could invite us when they deliver one time? I would love to just check them out, and I don't want to be like peeping in people's backyards, maybe without permission. But yeah, I won't wear my trench coat that night. But in any case, I think the board would be really interested in just seeing a finished product, even if we could see them at the Career Center before they go out. I think that would be great.
So do we got? I just see some more detailed specs on, like, is it like treated lumber or anything like that? Do we know what this?
I don't know. I can give you the details I have. Each of them are going to be 8x10, wooden floor, vinyl siding, tin roof, no windows, 36-inch door, and each the size 1,000 to 1,200 square foot.
Wow.
Are they gonna paint them too?
What's that?
Will they
Yeah.
be?
They're siding. They have vinyl siding.
Vinyl siding, so
The
yeah,
vinyl.
that's good.
Here, lumber is 4,500.
Yeah.
So what kind of lumber could you buy for 4,500?
Thanks.
A tree or two.
That sounds great, Amy.
Thank you.
Very creative.
Yes, thank you. And will you be sure to thank Cardinal Construction for their time? And I know Katie, so I can definitely thank her as well. But on behalf of the board, I think it's a wonderful donation for them to give. I mean, basically half the project. So
Absolutely.
it's fabulous.
We're excited.
Yeah.
So what kind of foundation is there going to be? Are the students going to go out and work on that, or is that going to be something that'll be done?
I think it's part of the student project, but I'm not positive because they don't really get to work with cement much out there. So,
Right.
I know that based on the
Said wood floor.
based on the size, you had to have a certain size. I think it had to be anything under 850 square foot. Had to have a concrete slab,
Slab.
underneath. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so because we're making them 1,000 to 1,200 square foot, then we won't avoid that.
Okay. Is there anything further for Ms. Meehy? All right. Then seeing none, all those in favor of approving the Master Builders of Iowa grant signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us then to Exhibit B, and this is regarding the Iowa Legal Aid Services Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU. And the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the Memorandum of Understanding between the Waterloo Schools and Iowa Legal Aid as outlined.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thanks, India. And I will bring up Marla Pageant and Nick Smithberg from Iowa Legal Aid, and you guys can answer a few questions. I'm sure the board has a few, and Nick, you may have the floor as well. So,
Nick and I are going to share the honors here. We're very excited to provide another service for our students and their families, because one of the things that we run into through student services and out in the buildings is that parents have a myriad of issues that they don't know always how to navigate, and they may need legal services, but they aren't able to afford them. So some things that could be easily fixed for them or helped or provide additional answers, they can't get them. But with this service, this community project in schools through legal aid, we can help them get those services and get them on the right path.
great.
Yeah, and just to echo that, you know, really the fundamental concept behind this project is that, as I'm sure you all know, children living in poverty face special challenges in school, in particular around issues like housing instability and domestic violence and income instability. And these are issues that we work on every day with the clients that we serve around the state. And the idea would be to actually physically place a legal aid clinic in an elementary school where we could meet with families and, you know, help counsel them on their different issues. One just important point of clarification, there are programs that are sort of like a Lawyers for Kids kind of a construct. That's not this. In this project, our clients are the parents and the caregivers who we feel are a necessary component to successful learning for the kids. In other words, if we can get the families stabilized, we think that the literature shows us that will help the kids to succeed in school. And, we're not asking for money.
They are not, just space. They just need space, right? And just because they would be housed in a particular building doesn't mean that other buildings would not be able to take advantage of those services. They also have talked to me about the fact that if transportation was an issue, they could meet them at a school closest to them based on need. But they just do need to have one specific place to be housed.
And just to echo that, I mean, we this actually is an extension of a project we have that's up and running in Des Moines, where we're housed in King Elementary School, but we currently serve clients from about 4 or 5 other schools. And so that actually has worked very well for us. We find that the families are actually much more comfortable meeting in a school setting than they are coming to our offices.
And additionally, they offer interpretation services as well. So if and many of their lawyers are bilingual.
In what school have we kind of determined, what school in the district they might be
We
placed?
haven't yet.
We have actually determined that, but are not ready to release that.
Okay.
So it's an elementary school, so yes.
Okay. And if you could, just like, what would be a scenario of a case you had in Des Moines School? Names withheld, but just kind of what type of stuff
Good
you.
question.
Well, I would say, it's not that, like, ask a lawyer a question, it's never a simple answer, right? But,
Right. Well, I'm
the-
asking you one.
the cases tend to be multifaceted. We're in our first year, and the cases that have come through the door tend to be folks that have some pretty deep, multi-part problems. So it won't be uncommon for us to be dealing with a housing issue and job training issue. We work with a lot of human service partners, domestic violence issues, consumer issues, benefits issues. I mean, the thing that I like about this project is that it doesn't take us out of our strong suit. This is the work that we do anyway. It's just serving in the school setting allows us to get a deeper impact and to stay with the families longer. So we don't structure this as really a high volume kind of a concept. It's more like we're going to take a few dozen families and stay with them for a period of time and really try and untie the knot, because these are deep problems that we work on.
How do you advertise your program?
Honestly, let us get in the water, let the word of mouth get out. PR has never been our problem. We do like to have an opportunity to present to the social work staff and the faculty so that they understand that the resource is available. But I would say most of our cases come through referrals from social workers. So I don't need to be like putting something in writing and blasting it out there. If anything, we would be careful not to grow too quickly so it doesn't kind of blow up.
And additionally, we are going to apprise all of our administrative staff that we are adding this additional service. So some of it is referral word of mouth.
So is there like a time frame, commitment of how long this will go on, or are you looking at forever, or what are we looking at?
Well, kind of forever. I mean, if this would be an open-ended concept, I'm optimistic I can, as I grow the program and get it up and running throughout the state, that we can start looking at newer sorts of funding sources for it. But it's also a project that, I'm the executive director, and it is funded as an important part of our growth as an organization, so it will be supported by the resources of the organization. And, we have about 100 people working at Iowa Legal Aid. We have 10 offices throughout the state. So there's some heft behind the commitment.
What are your primary avenues of funding?
Well, we're chasing some grants here in town. As a general proposition, we get a certain amount of funding from the state, a certain amount of funding from the federal government, and then anywhere between 75 and 90 different grants that we go through every year. So I spend a lot of time raising money, but I think that there's some interest here among some local funders to make this a reality, so that, because we want to fund it locally and have it really be tied to this school district.
Thank you for investing in us. Yeah.
And it's one more, we talk about systems of support for our students and our families, and I think this is just one more thing that we can provide, which is fabulous.
It really is. I was thrilled. They actually approached us with the idea, so
Yeah,
thrilled.
it's great. It's okay. All right, anything else for Nick? Nick, thank you for being here tonight, and Marla, thank you for piloting this through the process, so.
And thank you, Marla.
All right, then all those in favor of approving the Iowa Legal Aid Services MOU, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. Thank you. And as soon as we have the school selected, we'll let people know. So, yep, excellent. All right, the next item on our agenda then is information from individuals and delegations. And I would ask if there's anyone here this evening who wishes to address the board. All right, well, then seeing none, I would move on to our consent agenda, which this evening consists of the minutes of the December 9th, 2019 regular board meeting, the personnel appointments and adjustments, item D, Bills paid, bills due and payable and bills paid between board meetings. Item E. Classroom space availability for open enrollment purposes. Item F. Appointment of board member to the Blackhawk County Conference Board. Item G. East and West High School bleacher replacement projects bid approval. Item H. To set the date of the public hearing for the Lowell Elementary asbestos removal and demolition project. Item I. And to set the date of public hearing for the Lowell Elementary construction project. Item J. Are there, can I get those items on the table, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Jesse. And a second?
Second.
Thanks, India. And are there any items which board members wish to have removed?
I would say I and J.
I and J? Okay. Yep. Good.
D, please.
H, just.
D is in dog? Okay. And
H.
H? Alrighty. Okay, then that leaves items C, E, F, and G on the table. Can I get a motion, or I'm sorry, we already have a motion. Can I just vote to approve those items, those 4 items? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. That takes us to item D, personnel appointments and adjustments. This is on page 21. And the recommended motion is that the board approve the, I have to get to it, personnel items as listed. Yeah. I was like,
So moved.
I know I have it. Thank you, both of you. And discussion.
I was just interested in that there's a new position at Lou Henry for special needs sign language interpreter. And is this something, which buildings are we serving students who with hearing impairments? And what kind of, do we have interpreters in multiple buildings, or just kind of get my head around it?
So I may not be able to answer all the question, but we do have interpreters in multiple buildings. In relation to sign language, is a specific need, or it's a student need where there was a student that needed this particular need, and so we assigned a sign language interpreter. Now, this sign language interpreter also has the ability to work in other areas of the district as far as helping out other areas of the district, but this in particular was because of this student.
That was my other question, is it's not going to be just one student specific, because I mean, that is such a cool
Right.
option.
It's not. Again, this individual worked with us before, so it's not out of the realm of. Anyways, so in general, there's a lot of different ways to answer that, but I'm answering it this way. Yes, this is because of the student need, but we do have additional responsibilities this individual will work on.
Awesome,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else for Mr. Batchway?
I would just add, because Sue normally asks me this question, and so
Where
I
are
don't
we?
know what, I don't know what happened.
I'm giving you a break tonight.
I appreciate it. You will notice that there are a number of different positions hired for
Yeah.
teachers. So I know that through the year we were saying we're working. We did find a number of hires, and so I won't say we're fully staffed, but we have filled a lot of those positions of need.
That's great.
Very good. And I was wondering, as
I
far
thought it was just that question. No.
I got
Psych.
lots for you, Kingsley. But how, I see this one name, which is obviously public here, Megan Quang, that she was hired and she replaced herself.
Yeah. So maybe not to talk about a specific situation, but anytime there is a situation where we can't fill the position with an individual, sometimes they go back into that same position. You saw something similar. It might have been a couple of months ago in regards to a coaching position where it was almost over a year, and you're like, well, how does that work? It's just because we never filled it, and so that person goes right back. They applied for it and were able to get all the certification needed and everything to fulfill our requirements, and they went right back into the position that they had previously.
Perfect, thank you.
Does that also happen sometimes when the job description changes slightly and the person will resign from that position and then reapply for the new position? And so it's, or I know we've seen that, but is that kind
Like
of
a change
the
of
same?
assignment?
Change of assignment.
Yeah, it could be around a change of assignment
Okay.
where,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
literally for the same FTE of the
Yes.
position. I mean, so they're replacing that same position, but
Yep.
not necessarily the exact same position.
Okay, okay, thank you. All right, Sue, are you done with your grilling?
Well, also, no, just as far as retirements, I see we have one on there this year so far. I mean, on the back of that page, one retirement, but, does it look like, this will be a big year for retirements, or?
Yeah, we sent Lorraine did a wonderful job of sending that communication out. I believe in early December. I just asked her about it last week, and we haven't really received a lot of retirements. I mean, I'm hopeful that we don't, but I don't know right now. And so the next board meeting, I'll have some more information in regards to that.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, anything further then on personnel appointments and adjustments? All right, then all those in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. That takes us then to item H on page 41. And this recommended motion is that the Board of Education accept the recommendation from ISG and approve the bid from H2I Group for the basis bid of $226,300 plus alternate number 1 for $6,000, equaling a total contract amount of $232,300 for the East and West High School bleacher replacement project.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thanks, India. And discussion, I know that Dan is here, Dan Channer's here from ISG. If we have specific questions for him, I think, Sue, did you pull this?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I just was wondering, we had those 4 contractors that some of them are typical contractors we see that, didn't submit bids, so just wondering if it was complexity of the, or what maybe was the reason why, we didn't get more bids on this, 'cause 2's not a lot to choose from.
Okay. Well, actually, H2I is actually, they used to be Iowa Direct. So they're the bleacher supplier, and they contracted with Failer Hurley to actually do the general portion of the work that's involved. So, the other 3 I knew, Woodruff earlier in the day I knew was not going to bid. I think they have a fairly substantial project going on.
Full calendar that in the summer.
Plenty of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Perfect.
Okay.
And is this kind of the ballpark you guys were looking at?
250, 250 was the
Yep.
estimate.
Pretty close.
So it's, yeah.
Perfect, that's it, thank you.
Okay. Anything else for Dan? Thanks, Dan. I appreciate you being here tonight. All right, then all those in favor of approving the East and West High School bleacher replacement project bid, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. All right, that takes us then to item I, which is setting the date of the public hearing. And I will get to it in 2 seconds. I'm going to read it off yours. The Board of Education approved the date of January 27th, 2020 at 5 p.m. to hold the public hearing for the Lowell Elementary asbestos removal and demolition project. Thanks. I just hit the wrong tab. In a second. Okay, Sue and Jesse. Good. Okay. And discussion.
Yeah, I pulled this. I just wanted
That's good.
to acknowledge the fact that we're kind of really moving forward on this, which is a great thing. And publicly, a lot of people have commented on the fact that we are moving forward. So this is a good start. And many people are kind of surprised, but it is a really good start. So yeah, I just want to acknowledge that.
Yep.
Not really much questions, but yeah.
Okay. No, that's great. That's what it's for. Time to discuss. Go ahead,
Well,
Sue.
I'm just wondering if there have been any insurance updates, Jane?
No. There has not been any. We're still continuing to work on it, but I do anticipate it'll be a little bit.
Okay.
And then I had a couple questions on, the National Historic Registry.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of give a synopsis? Did you get privy done all of that, or?
PM, do you have that information?
Yes. Sorry. I had emailed John Dornoff with the city, and he indicated that the building is not listed on the National Registry. It was not individually eligible to be on the National Registry. So it is not.
I just wanted to make that clear, so.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up, Sue.
What's
Yep.
the, I mean, I've heard some, but what's the general feel from community so far on the going forward to building? I mean, large location and.
I think by and large, it's very, very, very supportive. We have taken a few phone calls from a few people that are, who are, oh, falls like that. A few people who are
We are all-
interested or in tracking what's going on. Sad about the losing a historical
Yeah.
building, as are
Of
we.
course.
So,
Absolutely.
we've shared that, but it's just not, the way it is, the way the building is sitting right now, it is just not able to be repaired to the point where it will regain, regain its, use and safety, so it would just have to be taken down and rebuilt, so we're gonna lose the historical features either way, which is
Yeah, unfortunate.
disappointing. Yeah.
But
We are going to salvage as much as we can.
yeah, I was
There-
just gonna say all
Yep.
the cool stuff from Orange
Yep,
that
like
got
Orange,
saved.
exactly. Yep.
And
And-
we've had that a lot in our district, you know, it's hard because.
The buildings have been 100 years, yeah.
You know, the buildings have been here a long time, and so, I mean, I had someone comment about, well, you just repaired that, but that was actually in 2005, so that's not just, that's 15 years ago, you know,
Yeah.
your car doesn't
Well,
last 15 years.
No, it's not
you know,
like,
I mean,
not like we plan to.
No, that was
Right.
not in the
Well,
cards, so.
And there's other things we can do as well. Like I have one of the big glass cabinets from West Intermediate in my living room from the auctions. So there's
Oh.
really ways to get the
Yeah.
community to still feel that investment, you know?
That's
There was
awesome.
a question that came, you know, we have 2 additional schools that are older,
Mhm.
and so people are like, what conditions are those in?
Sure.
And so, you know, I know that we do our best as far as keeping up,
Yep.
as far as the maintenance on these buildings, but we can't predict Mother Nature at all at any point.
Yep.
So, you know, public, keep that in mind too, that
Absolutely.
we do our job as far as maintaining the buildings too.
Definitely.
Inspections. And Marty staff is.
Does a great job when they, and I think, Jesse, to answer your question from another side, both Sue and Indy and I were at the announcement that happened with the families. And I mean, I can speak just for those families that were there and those families that came up afterward. It was a pretty emotional thing. There were tears. There was clapping when the announcement was made. I've talked to several staff people who have sought me out, just like in the grocery store, who have said, "We are so thankful to be. Yes, it's a loss for the building, but we are so thankful to be together and to be, basically where we were, on that same site." And so I would just say my own personal experience has been that people have been very positive toward me, but I could get yelled at tomorrow, so I guess we'll wait and see.
And I was gonna say this at the very end in my superintendent comments, but it seems more appropriate right now. Just a huge thanks to the staff, especially under the leadership of Carrie Heinzerling, Principal Heinzerling, the families, the students. It was a lot longer than anybody ever anticipated, and we wouldn't have planned it this way. We wouldn't wish this ever to happen again. But I keep in mind constantly that no one was hurt, and we're doing the right thing now. So I'm just very grateful for everyone's patience. Not an easy thing for anyone.
And then, if you would, just comment, Jane, on the funding of the building.
Yeah, that's a great point. We've been asked that quite a bit. It will be funded through the SAVE dollars, the 1 cent money. So we do have enough money to do this. We do have to Michael will share more later, not necessarily tonight, but we will have to do a couple things to meet the policies and to do that, and then we'll refund that money once we get our insurance settlement finished up. But it is not raising property tax dollars. It is not raising property tax dollars. Do you have to say it 3 times before people remember that? It is not raising property taxes. So we'll fund it on the money that we have coming in, but the board will have to take a couple actions to make sure that we can go ahead and use that money now. So thanks, Sue, for that opportunity. Reminder. Yep.
Right, anything further?
I know there was a timeline that was presented to the families and staff. Could you just kind of go over that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah, right. Great opportunity to say that now. We are moving forward with the demolition and asbestos removal. in the next few months, so that will be done, I think in the press release we said by around May 1.
Yeah,
Give or
early
take
spring.
a couple weeks. And then as soon as that's done, we will start with the building. And then we will open the doors in August of 2021. So all of this year, for the remainder of this year, the students will stay in their temporary space, which actually at this point in time isn't so temporary, but, and then all of next year too, so. And then we'll be ready to open our doors.
We'll
so
get 'em
looking
home.
forward to that. Get them back home, that's right.
Are plans already established for this? Is this like building architectural plans or?
Yep, we are not releasing that information yet, but we are working on that.
Okay, thank you.
And regarding our contract with AEA for.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all good for one
We are all
more year.
good, right, when we did the lease last year, we signed a lease for this year with an option to renew for 1 year. We just didn't know, but we went ahead and put that in, so we will renew that lease. That will come before you at some point in time. Again, also maybe a good note to remind people, that is also being paid by insurance money. There's the money for the building itself, and then there's, like an emergency, money for incidental expenses, of which leasing a building or renting a building is part of that, so that is all being paid for by the insurance. And that part actually is not up for, that's not the
That's
part
not
that we're
being
trying to.
paid.
That's
that
not
is
a negotiation.
That is not under negotiations,
Yes.
that part is covered, so
Yeah.
when people say, where's that money coming from, it's
Insurance.
coming from insurance.
Yep. Okay, anything further? Great discussion. All right, then all those in favor of approving the public hearing for the asbestos removal and demolition project, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. Then that takes us to item J, which is on page 43, and the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the date of January 27th, 2020 at 5 p.m. to hold the public hearing for the Lowell Elementary construction project.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you, and discussion?
So that'll be at our next board meeting.
Yes. And just, if I may, Dr. Lindeman, just say that, so the public hearing we have in order to move forward with the construction project, and Stacy, you asked about plans and all of that, and so this is the next step in order to get us to that point. So we will hold the public hearing, and then we will work toward, probably hiring a contract with an architect and all of that goes after that.
So will there be a public, the public bring their suggestions to the table as far as construction or ideas?
Right, yeah, we shared a little bit of that at the meeting and a little bit, with the staff. There will be a way that we will be gaining some input. But it may look a little different given the timeline that we're under, but we still, so we're gonna try to find a nice tension, a nice balance between continuing to move forward, and allowing people to provide input. So yes, there will be, it might look a little different.
And then the staff input will be number one.
Definitely have
Yep.
staff input, yeah.
Somebody already talked to us about the parking lot that night, so
Yeah, right.
duly noted.
Yeah, we mentioned that on the
Yeah.
news thing, that just we'll take this opportunity to fix a couple things
Yep.
that it was an older building, and sometimes
Didn't
you
have.
live in the space that you have in front of you, but when you are rebuilding, we would fix those. I mean, there would be no reason not to fix the
Yeah.
parking lot was one of them that was brought up by the parents, so.
Imagine that.
Yeah, exactly. The things we use.
So what would be our, Kingsley obviously, but beyond that, our next oldest elementary?
Not elementary, but East High.
No, but I'm just elementary.
Kingsley, and then Cunningham is actually our
And
our
that
older,
was
'cause it was
our
the
new
first
one.
one
03.
built. It was the
Yeah.
first one built when we started rebuilding schools, so.
Yeah.
yep.
27?
I
I
believe that
assumed
was
when
in
they meant two
2002.
buildings, that's what they meant, was
So,
East
yeah, I meant
and,
East too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, other than, McKinstry's been
yeah.
reassigned. It
But
was-
McKinstry
Yeah.
was,
That was elementary at one point.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
So really, we've got a pretty good
Yeah.
Yeah.
looking at
fleet
pre-
of
yeah.
elementary schools.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right, anything further then on that public hearing? All right, then all those in favor of approving the date of the public hearing for the Lowell Elementary construction project, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. And the motion carries. So that takes us to item K, which is on page 44, and this is the second reading for these policies. And the recommended motion is that the board approve the following policies: board member conflicts of interest and entrance age and requirements.
So moved.
Thanks, Sue. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, India. And discussion, these are policies 203.0 and 501.4. So any questions? Tara Thomas, our Director of School and Community Relations, is here, and I think they were pretty straightforward, Tara. There weren't too many changes, really, just a updating of verbiage, really.
Right, and the amount.
And the amount, yeah. Yep. Any questions for her? All right. Then all those in favor of approving the board policy changes 203 and 501.4, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. That takes us to item L then, which is on page 48, and this is approval for a purchase of property. And the recommended motion here is that the Board of Education approve the purchase agreement with A&K Ventures for property at 1715 Jefferson Street, Waterloo, Iowa, 50702 for the purchase price of $147,500.
So moved.
Thanks, Sue. And a second?
Second.
And Matt O'Brien is here for a little bit of background on this. Thanks, Matt.
Absolutely. Good
Sure
evening.
appreciate it. Good evening.
So we in the tech department have struggled with a lack of storage and workspace for quite some time now. We've been working with Marty Metcalf, the district's director of operations, and the district's facility committee, and it was clear that there was not an existing district facility that would really be suitable for us to use. So with that in mind, we actually started working with a commercial realtor to look at some available properties. Marty and I actually visited a number of properties, and the property before you at 1715 Jefferson was the most viable option that we saw. One of the key pieces with that is its proximity to our tech facility right now. That's a huge deal for us from an efficiency standpoint of just not having to have staff and vans travel across town to get between our office space and the actual storage or additional workspace. It's actually only a couple of blocks away, which is going to be obviously ideal from an efficiency standpoint. So that was a big deal. Some other selling points was it was really good condition, new roof, for example. Climate controlled, which for technology is really, really important, and that was something that has been lacking in the past and is really important for tech stuff, and was lacking in a number of other facilities that we looked at, even purpose-built storage facilities as well. So that was important to us as well. So did want to also point out that in addition to storage, this is going to allow us just some additional space to also have work done. So when we get large shipments of computers or Chromebooks or things of that nature in, this will allow a space for our techs as well as our student interns. We have a number of student interns, as many of you are aware, that work alongside our techs or work on projects for us to work and kind of prep and get equipment ready to be deployed as well. So we're happy to have that as well. And quite honestly, we're going to be happy to have some additional storage, particularly when we get shipments in. It really is crunched at our facility. Just to kind of give you an idea of that, we store things in offices and cubicles and in our conference room and at times even in our bathrooms. So it really, it is definitely a need, particularly for when we get large shipments in, but also throughout the year as well. So pending your approval and pending a few other things that we just need to get worked out on the legal perspective, then we would take possession by April 1st, which would allow us then to prep the facility and have that be ready for our next large shipment. As many of you are aware, we typically take a large purchase proposal to the board in the spring, which we then phase in over the summer. So that timing piece was key to kind of get this going. That's why we wanted to get this before you tonight, so that ball can continue to roll and we can hopefully take possession by April 1st and be ready to actually ship items to that facility pending the board's approval when we take that large package to you all to approve this spring. Happy to answer any questions.
I wondered what the assessed value of the property was.
It is on the lower side. I want to say it was in the mid-80s, Sue. Yeah, it was in the mid-80s. I'll point out a couple things. One is that was probably on the low side. The second is this actually wasn't on the market. This is something that our realtor actually was looking at properties within our area that would potentially be willing to sell. This owner was willing to entertain that. They actually had a long-term lease, and that's one of the final pieces to be worked out at this point, that we want to make sure that when we take over the property that it's free and clear without that lease. So they're working on breaking that lease right now. But those were factors that need to be considered. Like I said, also there's been some very recent work that had been put into it with a new roof and whatnot, which obviously feed into that as well.
And Sue, if I can just add, knowing that we've needed this stuff for IT for quite some time, there have been multiple times that Matt has come to the facilities committee with options for us. And in fact, some options that we have put out have been more expensive than this and have not been accepted. And so this amount is definitely on the low side of some of the other buildings in the neighborhood that we looked at and have tried to purchase. I would say this has been going on probably for 3 years, Matt. We've been trying to find you some space.
You are absolutely correct and
So.
well said. I appreciate it.
Sorry, I just
Appreciate-
wanted
no,
to
I
add that,
appreciate you interjecting.
add that little piece that yes, I'm not saying it's not any amount of money, but it is definitely a better price than some of the things that we tried to get in the future, in the past, so.
Do you have-
Sorry to interrupt, just wanted to also add from the properties that Marty and I looked at with the realtor as well, this was on the low side. I can't remember if this of the 5 was the lowest or second to lowest, but
I think
it
it was.
was definitely on the low
And by
side.
far the best.
Yep.
So-
do you do much for refurbishing inside for
Yeah.
storage, or is it pretty much?
No, it actually is going to work out. So really the work that we'll do is obviously, because we'll be storing some equipment there, alarm system, camera, that type of stuff. But in terms of storage, it works out really well. There's actual a large garage door in the back of the facility. So in a perfect world, we would have a dock. This is kind of the next to perfect thing, that as long as we get a truck with lift gates in, we can actually just wheel pallets through that, or back a district box truck up to that, which has a lift gate as well. So most of the facility is kind of a large climate controlled, very large garage, I guess I'll describe it as. But then there's also a nice office space up front as well, which will be nice for folks when they're actually working on things as well. So it's actually pretty perfect from that perspective. And again, that was actually another selling point as well, is just really minimal work needed for us to use it.
So you have adequate parking, all that stuff going on. I mean, I'm looking at it now. It's a really nice building.
Yeah, it is a nice building. It's in really good shape. Parking isn't a huge concern. I mean, yes, there certainly is some off-street parking there. There's obviously street parking, but most of our staff parking will be still at our existing tech facility 2 blocks away. So, the number of staff that we'll have working there, the few times that we'll actually have a lot of staff there, worst case scenario, they can walk the 2 blocks if they need to from our facility if they have to. And there's also, like I said, the large garage door as well. So depending on how much of that we use up, we'll be able to actually drive a district van, back it directly into it as well, which is a big plus.
And I just wondered one thing on the agreement, that as far as, confidentiality and they will have their small storage area until 5/15/20. So.
Yep.
Just.
So that was a piece that the gist of it is that I mentioned was leased out. They're leasing like 95% of it out, and then the landlord, the owner, actually has about 5% of it that is kind of in the segregated area that he's using for storage for his equipment. He actually went south for the winter, so it's just a timing thing. As a courtesy, we're allowing him to come back and get that kind of final percent off, 5% out of the facility. We just made sure, wrote into the agreement as well, just to make sure that he's keeping insurance on those pieces so that we're not liable for any of his
And he
pieces.
would not have access to the building.
We'll mutually arrange that, so our,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I mean,
exactly.
but he's
Right.
not gonna be able to get in when
Right.
he wants to.
Right, exactly, and quite honestly, he's down south anyway, so, but when he comes back, then we'll arrange the time for him to come back.
I'm sure it says in here, but I don't have my readers on. So
That's
what
okay.
is the square footage?
What was it? I think it's about 2,200 square feet, if I remember correctly. Let me see. Wow, yeah, 2440 square feet.
Okay, anything further for Matt? All right, well, fingers crossed. Not going to jinx anything. We're just
There we
going to
go.
we're just going to approve this. So all those in favor, well, I don't know. We're just going to vote on this. How's that sound? So all those in favor of approving the property purchase, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.
Yep. I'll come help you move. I promise.
We're always looking for bodies.
I know. Yes. So, all right. The next item on our agenda then is item M, and this is funding for the 2020-21 at-risk education programs. And and this is also item M. And the recommended motion is that the Board of Education authorize the district's administration to submit a request to the School Budget Review Committee, SBRC, in the amount of $3,737,732 for modified supplemental amount, MSA, for the purpose of funding district at-risk programming for 2020 and 2021.
So moved.
Thanks, Jesse. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. And we'll turn this over to Michael Coughlin. I just want to make sure that it's clear that this is for next year's at-risk funding, and we do this now so that we can get it into our budget for the coming year. And this is us asking for the authority to pass that.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, Michael.
That's all right.
I'm done.
We
Every now and again.
we cross fiscal years quite often when we
Yeah.
do approvals with budgets, special budgets. This is in addition to the regular formula money that we get through the aid and levy worksheet, which is the form that we use to generate our budget for the general fund for the upcoming school year for 2021. So part of that is we have an auxiliary funding, which is called at risk. And the reason that it's auxiliary is because it is a local control decision by the local board members. Because not every district has at-risk needs like all the other districts. So it is the ability for a local district to decide how much they want to raise in revenue. It's a local decision by the board and how they're going to use it. And because this amount of money is all property tax, 3.7 million that Shanley read off is all property tax, which is 5% of the enrollment times the state cost per pupil, which our state cost per pupil this year is $6,880. So 10,776 students times that amount is our base budget, I'll call it, which I refer to in here, the regular program district cost. So 5% of that is the 3.7 million. In addition to that, the district has to match another 25% of that number, 25% of the 3.7 million, which is 1,245,911. So those two numbers together are the at-risk budget for the year. What comes out of special property tax, what comes out of the district match. And this has been going on for many, many years. across the state and in Waterloo specifically. And to just kind of jump ahead to the bottom of the page on page 54, this is an estimate of where we are using that money currently. So it gives you kind of idea what programs are being affected. Obviously, the largest one is Expo, but there are many other programs in there that that you can see. And the reason, again, as Shanley discussed, is that this is for the 2021 budget, but to get it in the tax rolls, it has to be approved by March of this year, so it can get to the county auditor to be put on the tax rolls for the following year. So we have to approve it in January to be able to give the county time to get it on the tax rolls. So one of the things that was always an issue with this is for many years, except for just the last couple of years, we had to assign what the programs were, how we were going to, the budget for each one, and it was critically examined by the DE to say whether or not that was following all the rules or not. And the argument from the district side was, this is January, this program doesn't even start until the next September. We don't normally do budgets that far in advance. So that became a legislative issue, and the legislature ruled just a couple of years ago of saying, just give them, the districts, the ability to raise the money, and then as far as what programs are funded and at what rates, that's a local decision as well, because this is all a local school board decision of funding at-risk programs.
At this point, we're just approving the authority, we're not actually setting the amount, right?
This is the amount, yes.
Okay.
It will, based on our valuation, it runs about $1.30 in property tax. But that's been part of our total for years. So it's not any addition, but it's just continuing a practice that we've been doing for many years.
But so if, let's say if we would decide, just saying, one of these programs we wanted to eliminate, let's say we think our dollars might be used better, we have this amount budgeted, we could use this for something else. We're not
Correct.
set in stone this
You
is
could
the
change a lot of these programs. It doesn't have to be these programs at these amounts.
just the dollar amount.
This is, yep, you're just approving the
authority.
total dollar amount tonight.
This is fully funded SROs, or we got a portion that comes from elsewhere?
This does the SROs. And well, that's how we're choosing to use it now.
Right.
So, but that has
They
been
give us a deal,
part of the SROs in the time that I've been here.
So, and this might not be related, but how is Kinley's school funded? Do we use a different type of funding source for that?
Which part of communities and schools? Because we actually have several things going with them. We have Carver and Central have some extra support on that.
So the extra support would come from what funding?
I believe they have it's a partnership, and Michael, am I right on that one? It's a partnership. They pay part and we pay part. I'm sure Stephanie might know some of that with the communities and schools at Central and at Carver. Do you know how that's funded? Michael, do you know?
I think we are funding part of it,
Part
but
of it,
not
yeah,
all
not
of
all
it.
of it.
The grant is for the
Yeah,
other half.
not all
of
of
it.
it, but part of
we've
it.
had to approve that.
Yep, that-
Yeah, I think there's
Yep.
I think it's similar in a way to like IJAG programs.
Well, that's
We
why I was
fund a
asking.
portion
Yep.
of it. Yep, IJAG, we pay a portion of the teacher and then
But
they
not
pay
all
all
of it.
of the rest of them. So it's that not necessarily always matching. Sometimes it's a prorated portion of it, but I think that's how we fund that.
And
That
does it
is.
come out of general fund? That's what I think the thing is,
Yeah.
is I think
Yes.
it's listed on here,
Okay.
under at-risk, but I'm thinking that the communities and schools is under,
Well, the part that the district pays for is just out of general fund.
What percentage of the Expo budget is this?
So the core concepts that were missed.
Generally, I mean, we still got Expo coming out of general fund too, right?
This,
No, this is all of Expo. Yeah.
All of it. I didn't know we some of the.
And I just want to clarify, I don't know, was it you, who just said that if we did decide that I wanted to put this on the microphone, that if we did decide to change, that a program wasn't effective or we were going to use a different program, this is just to guarantee us the authority and the amount.
Correct.
But we have the flexibility here locally to adjust and change if we choose to add a different program or remove a program, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks, Sue.
Good clarification.
And like, would there be a possibility, Virginia, that we could do something, with our counselors, your intense work with our counselors, with, cause they're dealing with a lot of the at-risk students and.
Yeah, honestly, sometimes some of those initiatives could actually be funded multiple ways. It could be funded out of at-risk, it could be funded from general, it could be funded from different. So sometimes it's Title I, not in this case necessarily, but sometimes there's a little bit of I was gonna say shell game, but that trivializes it. And I don't mean
Overlap.
to do that, but yeah, sometimes we take a portion out of here. So there are other things we are doing that could be funded out of this. So if we do that, then something here would be. Oh, I'm sorry,
Fine,
my microphone. I think we're gonna have to get a. Pam, put in a work order. My microphone does not work.
It's
here.
fine.
It just keeps flying all over, and it just falls down.
All right.
So if it didn't come out of here, then it would have to come out of somewhere else.
Yeah. Overlap, that's a good word for it. Yeah.
And I don't know if this is the time, but I don't know what Communities in Schools is. Could someone just kind of help me out here?
It might,
You want me to do
in a nutshell, it is supporting students through intensive counseling services. So students I can get you more information on that maybe in a.
It's like having a mentor, and they help kids get to school on time. They help kids with wraparound extra counseling, and we have programs at both Central and Carver.
Thank you.
Yep, and they are a national program, so. Yep. Not that and we're in the Midwest region. I think the offices are out of Kansas, but you can take a look at their stuff. So.
It is in Kansas.
Is it out of Kansas? I think so. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything further then on the at-risk funding? You have another question? Anybody? Okay. Then all those in favor of approving the at-risk funding, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. That concludes our action items for this evening, and so I will turn it over to Dr. Lindemann for her superintendent's report.
I'm gonna hope that my microphone holds still here. So I just have 2 items today. First of all, I'd like to just share with the public and with the board some of the work that we're doing with the ISASP test, which I think is the hardest acronym to say, but it stands for Iowa Statewide Assessment of Student Progress. And so that is formerly known as the Iowa Assessments, which was formerly known as the Iowa Test of Basic Skills and the ITEDS, the Iowa Test of Educational Development. So it is our new statewide test. It was administered last year for the first time, and we didn't get the results back until November. So we are working fast and furiously. So I think it's just good for the public to know that we are really, underscore really working hard to respond to our student needs and that. So we're actually trying something under the direction of Dr. Mohorn over here. She had done a model that really was super effective. It is intense. And it is really all hands on deck at this point in time. So any of us who have a instructional background are working with a building and serving as their assessment mentor through the next 13 weeks. And so to the board, you all know that I keep sharing with you the days to the test. We are tracking that down as of today. It is 50 now because it was 51 this morning, but now today is over. So we are down to 50 days to the test, which actually begins on April 6th. And so I just would love the public to know that we are working very, very hard behind the scenes. Any students who, if they were not proficient, we have, we're targeting students in order to support them to make sure that they are getting additional instruction to have the very best chance to be proficient on the test. And so I'm really excited about that. I would also tell you that this is probably a strong statement, but I think I can back it up. I believe we are probably doing more in response to the Iowa assessments, or ISASP, than maybe any other district. Stephanie had done some calling around to other districts. What are you doing? They're like, well, we're just kind of going to wait another year. We actually are jumping on board to just really work hard, and so I'm really, really excited about that. My second topic, and I promise you I'm not going to jinx this, so I'm going to knock on wood, but I'm actually going to talk about weather. I get asked very, very often, sometimes in the grocery store, how do you make the call for weather? And so it might be just a good chance for me to just make a couple comments about that. So with the weather, the winter weather moving in, obviously people know we had a couple inches, and I very often, even if we have a few flurries in the sky, somebody will call me and say, are we going to get out of school early? Are we going to get out of school early? So here's what I would tell you is kind of my general rule. First of all, I would want everyone to know that we take that very seriously. We have a multi-pronged approach to making those decisions. It is not me sitting in my house making a decision. That is just not the way it works. And so we have kind of a network of people that go out in the, we're braving the storm as we should. We need to check the roads, and so we do that very often. If we are making the call in the morning, we will be out at, some people might be out at 3:30, maybe 4. I usually wait till 4:30 to head out, but we go out, we check roads. I'm actually getting very good after 6 years, six winters. I'm getting very good at knowing certain intersections. If I go to that intersection, I can kind of tell by what it looks like what some of the other roads are. So you kind of get that down to a science. We also have a network of superintendents that we start texting, even the day before we start texting, okay, call me at this time. What are you seeing? It's only good because you just kind of can see what is happening out and about. And then, once in a while, if we're really in question, we have a couple of veteran bus drivers who will sometimes get in their bus and drive a little ways and they'll call us back and tell us, okay, here's what we're finding. Because driving in a car and driving in a bus are two different things. We have great access to, we have to compliment the weather people around. Mark Schnackenberg has helped us multiple times. We call him, Tara has a connect with him, and so she can call him and say, what are you seeing? When is it going to start? And he will give us, really updated conditions. And so we're really grateful for that. And I guess my last comment is, public schools don't call off school when there's any risk at all. There's risk when it's raining. There's risk when it's, a half an inch of snow. We don't make that call when there's any risk. We live in Iowa. There are normal winter weather driving conditions that is just a given, and everyone needs to, we just need to keep remembering that piece of it. What we're looking for is if the conditions are such that even when you take precautions for winter weather driving, that may not be enough. And so that's really what we're looking for. We are not calling off school when there's any risk at all. We're looking for if you take normal winter weather driving conditions and you take those precautions, if those are not enough, that's when we're looking at making the call. I think everyone listening to me talk right now would agree that is not a firm line. And sometimes it's quite cloudy on what is exactly right. We do talk with the superintendent from Cedar Falls quite often, and okay, what do you think? And we take into consideration that we have a lot of young drivers at the high school. Mm-hmm. But again, we do count on parents to make that decision. I can't be the parent to all of those kids, and so even if we have school and a parent thinks that it's not safe, then they should not have their child drive on that day. We have to work in conjunction with parents, and so I just felt compelled to say that because we've already had, even this morning I had somebody say, we had 2 inches of snow last night. Are we going to have school today? Yes, we are going to have school today. That does not mean that it's not slick. Dr. Mohorn texted me this morning. It's slick, and it is slick. So you have to go slow. You have to take, we live in Iowa, and if we canceled every time we have 1 inch of snow, we would be missing days every single week. And it is different now. I went to my aunt's 80th birthday party this weekend, and there were some older people there who were saying, now listen, we never canceled school, and we never, and that's That's likely true. That is likely true. It's a different world and it's a different time, and so we do the very, very best we can. But I just thought this was a good opportunity to say that with some snow in the forecast.
Well, I appreciate your comments too on working with the other district, because, you know, we do have kids that are coming in and out
Absolutely.
to different
That's right.
district for different programming, as
Yeah.
we got our sharing arrangements, and
Right.
those decisions, you know, gotta
Yep.
weigh in too, so.
It is not an easy decision, and if I could, would delegate it to anyone in a moment, but that is not permissible, so I will continue on.
And for what's worth, I knew your testing stuff was going on. If I had a child come home and talk about, yeah, we're going, our schedule changed and we're going to work on testing.
Yes,
So I
we
was,
are,
I was,
working on those skills.
yes,
That's right.
I was commenting to me.
And I would just quickly add, this may be out of line, but just in my experience, it's rare that a superintendent is driving around at 4:30 a.m. in the morning when it comes to snow. I mean, and it's just one of those things from a weather standpoint. I think that the public just needs to know in general, like, the amount of time and effort when it comes to these things. And, you know, it's different, and hopefully is appreciated, especially when it comes to snow.
We're already starting on the weather for Friday has some special nuances in it, and so we're already looking, because it's the East-West basketball game on Friday night, and so we're already, luckily it's 2 local teams, and so we should be good on that, but, you know, we stay ahead of it as, you know, we're watching it probably, sometimes at least a week out, we're watching those weather reports, so.
And it's the end of the semester, so our kids don't have school,
Yeah.
so
They
do
that's,
not, so that
so
will
that
help.
helps. That helps, yeah.
I did have, I don't know if this is the time to ask, since you brought
can
up
go down.
about the ISAPs? ISASP, okay. So I did see, like Jesse said, the time change. Is that going to be something that is permanent? Sorry, and is that gonna take away from other stuff that they're doing, or how does that work?
Dr. Mohorn you wanna take that one?
So long story short, all buildings should, and most all do, have an extra period in their day, which is called, it's for MTSS, multi-tiered system of supports. So it's for kids to get additional instruction in addition to the core. So and I just totally lost my train of thought. Some call it wind time. I know some call it SOAR time. So it's called lots of different things, but that's basically what it is. So what we're doing is using that time. Not all buildings had that time built in every day. So that is why. And I'm actually going to work with Tara on getting a message to send out to parents for 3 through 11 that your child's schedule might have changed a little bit, because we are all hands on deck doing this. And so during that SOAR time, wind time, lead time, it's lots of different things. We are doing something really targeted and specific with that now.
So does that mean then that the schools that didn't have it, they're gonna be able to keep that then as well, right?
Oh, yeah,
The
absolutely.
schedule will stay that way forever?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? No, I mean, yes, we have anything else. I'm talking to you, Dr. Lehman. Anything else? Okay. I'm going to start down here to my left with India, because I have my little cheat sheet with comments from board members.
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jesse.
Nothing on there.
All righty. Sue?
Well, and I would just like to add to what Jane said, that if people can just keep in mind perspective, because like you had mentioned, bus driver versus a car driver. What about a student in the country and a student in town? I mean, that's a different lens, a different perspective. A student that has hats and gloves and coats and can wait at a bus stop, and a student that doesn't. And so we need to keep all perspectives in a clear vision in our lens, and I think we try to do a good job of that. And, you know, we take criticism, and it's not an easy job, but I just think that what we are doing is best for kids, and we have to keep that perspective in the forefront.
Thanks, Sue. Stacy?
I just want to say that I'm excited for the East-West games, and I hope that we see a lot of parents and supporters out there. It's going to be really exciting.
I just want to say tonight to remind our families that our upper grades have finals this week on Wednesday and Thursday, and it is really important for our kids to get a good night's sleep and to eat something either at school or once they get, before they get to school, and so that they can do well on their exams, because it's the end of the semester. And also just a reminder that our offices will be closed on Monday for MLK Day, And I would just like to urge our public to think about some of the great things that Martin Luther King did as well, and to perhaps, instead of just using it as a day off, to use it as it's truly intended as a day of service. I think there are lots and lots of projects that are happening throughout the Cedar Valley, and so if you have time to lift someone else up, I think that would be a great way and a great day to do so. The next time this board will meet is January 27th, back here in this room at 5 p.m. And unless there's anything further from the board, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
In a second? All right, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Good evening. Thank you. Stay safe and warm.